Hello, welcome back to Fill PCI SAQs yourself. My name is Ankur Hazarika, and today we are going to discuss which SAQ type is applicable for your business or your organization. So we are going to take a look at the official documentation that the PCI SSC or the PCI Security Standards Council provides, and we'll go through each one of them, and we'll basically discuss which SAQ type is the most suitable for you. All right, so I have the document already opened on my laptop, and this document is titled Self-Assessment Questionnaire Instructions and Guidelines. So this is the new one, that came back in September of 2023. Prior to this, this was available for the version 3.0, but since version 4.0 is the latest, it makes sense to, follow this one. And if you scroll down to page 3 here, that's where our focus should be. Page 4, sorry. So you can see here, it basically lists down all of the different SAQ types and a little bit of description about those SAQ types. I'll obviously put these links in the descriptions of the video, but if you want to search for it yourself, so this is the official standards council. You can search by this basically a search string SAQ instructions and guidelines, and then which will lead you to this, and then you can download it from here. So this PDF is basically the one which is opened with Mira. This is going to be a slightly longer video just because we're going to cover all of the different SAQ types, and I'm going to read through each of them. So please bear with me. So let's go over to SAQ-A. So SAQ-A is basically applicable for card not present merchants within bracket e-commerce or mail or telephone order that completely outsource all account data functions to PCI DSS validated and compliant third parties. No electronic storage, processing, or transmission of account data on their systems or premises. Not applicable to face-to-face channels, not applicable to service providers. Now, if you need to understand the difference between merchants and service providers, feel free to check out my other video on what is the difference between a merchant and a service provider. I'll also put a link to that video in the description of this video, but feel free to check out that video as well, where I clearly talk about the differences. Now, for merchants, this one specifically applies to card not present merchants only. So, think about online businesses. Think about, businesses which kind of, transacts only online, and you do not have a physical card presence. So you're not like a retail store, so it's like a Target, for example. It's a big US retail store. So where they might have those point of sale systems where customers would be requested to present their cards, their credit cards or their debit cards issued by the 5 card brands. So this is not applicable for them. This is only applicable for online businesses, for card not present merchants, but specifically who have outsourced all of the storing, processing, and transmission to PCI DSS validated and compliant third parties, meaning payment services processors, meaning processing companies like again, these are just examples like Adyen, like Stripe, and many other companies, Ingenico, for example. So all of these companies, and they have to be PCI DSS validated and compliant. And you can of course check the list of PCI DSS processors online and also on the PCI SSC website. I'll go over those how to check for compliant third parties, etc., in one of the later videos. But this is basically to let you know that SAQ-A is applicable for companies who have online presence, who does not have any ways of accepting card present kind of situations, right? So who have basically who deals with transactions for only card not present situations, and who basically do not store, process, or transmit credit cards data themselves. They have outsourced all of that to PCI DSS compliant third parties, in order to kind of handle all of the credit card transactions for them. So that's where the SAQ-A comes into the picture. It's not applicable to service providers at all. It is, applicable to merchants only. SAQ-A EP. Let's go over the definition once again. E-commerce merchants that partially outsource payment processing to PCI DSS validated and compliant third parties, and with a website that does not itself receive account data, but which does affect the security of the payment transaction and or the integrity of the page that accepts the customer's account data. No electronic storage, processing, or transmission of account data on the merchant's systems or premises. Again, applicable for merchants only, not applicable to service providers, right? And applicable only to e-commerce channels, right? So online channels only. You can see here, this is applicable to merchants who have partially outsourced their transaction, their payment transaction to payment processors or other third parties who are PCI DSS compliant and they are PCI DSS validated. And so, these type of merchants, they do not receive the card data from the customers themselves. So, but they host a website which can basically affect the security of the payment transaction. So think of it like this. So let's say I'm a company, which has the need for accepting credit card data. So I have my own website. And in that website, I have a form which collects the customer's, account name, address, account information, and then, credit card data, etc. But that page or that form basically hosts an iframe, and an iframe is basically, just think of it as a form, kind of, it's basically code which is embedded onto that form, but which is embedded by the payment processor in order to pick the data up directly from your website to process in their environment, right? So again, there are multiple kind of, attacks, or there are multiple scenarios through which your website could be compromised in order to gain access to the payment service provider's environment, because ultimately it's code and there could be, vulnerabilities. So that's why in those scenarios, your website could be, deemed as, something which could affect the security of the payment transaction. And that's where, you would be applicable for the SAQ type A EP. Now, for SAQ type B, again, it's also applicable for merchants only. It's now this one is not applicable to e-commerce channels as opposed to A and EP. B is not applicable to e-commerce channels. B is not applicable to service providers. Okay. B is for merchants using only imprint machines with no electronic account data storage. So you can have imprint machines, but you are allowed to process and transmit, right? But you are not allowed to store data. I mean, meaning you're not allowed to, meaning you are a merchant who has an imprint machine, right? But you do not store credit card data. You only process and kind of transmit, right? Or you have those standalone dial-out terminals, which I said, which I mentioned, like in those are also like terminals used for accepting credit card data. Again, if you do not electronically store data, you are eligible to complete an SAQB. So let's see, what imprint machines looks like. Once again, just so you know, so imprint machines, credit card. Yeah, so you can see here. So these are kind of the imprint machines that they are referring to. And yeah, so if you use one of these machines for your businesses, but then you only, you only use these to transmit and process, meaning, once you process the transaction, you do not hold the card data in your environment at all. You do not store it at all. Then you are eligible for that. And it's also for standalone dial-out terminals. So let's do a Google search for this one as well, so that we all are all aware. Yeah. So these are all standard dial-out terminals. Okay. That's what the SAQB would be applicable for. BIP, again, not applicable to e-commerce channels, not applicable to service providers, meaning these are card present. Okay. So meaning somebody has to go in physically and swipe the card in the imprint machine or the standalone dial-out terminals. Okay. So that's what. So for BIP, merchants using only standalone PCI listed approved PIN transaction security, PTS point of interaction, POI devices with an IP connection to the payment processor, no electronic account data storage. Now, these are again, we'll go over how to find out these PCI listed PIN transaction PTS point of interaction devices. I can try to find out here, but I wanted to basically, do separate videos, but let's try to find out here. So if we go to the SSC website, so you can see products and solutions listing, you see here approved PTS devices. So if you just click on this. Yeah, so you can basically see all of the approved list of devices here, and you can, basically check depending on your business needs, you can basically, do all of the filters here. If you already have found a company, then you can check that company name here to find out whether they are approved, in this list or not. Basically, whichever company is this list is an approved PCI PTS, kind of vendor. So you would have to select from this list. If you do not select from this list, sooner or later, the PCI listed approved PTS, POI devices vendor would have to be PCI compliant anyways, right? Now, BIP is applicable for merchants who uses these devices with an internet protocol connection to the payment processor, like a GEN, etc. And you in your environment do not store account data at all. Then you are eligible for a BIP type SAQ. Okay, now on to C. So CVT, merchants that manually enter payment account data a single transaction at a time via a keyboard into a PCI DSS validated and compliant third-party virtual payment terminal solution with an isolated computing device and a securely connected web browser. No electronic data storage. I haven't seen a lot of, kind of companies, at least coming to me for consulting into any one of these. But this is basically, some of those transactions where a single transaction is performed at a time isn't used a lot in today's world, but they basically enter a single transaction at a time via a keyboard provided by the merchant into a payment terminal. And the payment terminal could be, again, an imprint machine, a standalone machine, a dial-out terminal, etc., or a POS, point of sale system. But then the credit card numbers are entered onto a keyboard into basically that terminal. So not a very used scenario. With an isolated computing device and a securely connected web browser. So literally, let's say I am somebody who wants to make a payment and you are the merchant. So I am using a standalone isolated computer with a web browser, and I am, keying in the credit card detail one transaction, and that web browser is connected to your third-party virtual payment terminal solution. And then from there, it goes on to, whatever solution you're using for the payment processing. So, that's what CVT is basically applicable for. C, merchants with payment applications systems connected to the internet, no electronic data storage. Again, not applicable for service providers, applicable for merchants only, not applicable for e-commerce channels, but merchants with payment applications systems connected to the internet. So this could be both, this could be payment application systems like face-to-face, payment application systems like imprint machines or standalone dial-out terminals, POS systems, etc. Not e-commerce, but they are connected to the internet, and they could be connected like a POS system, the ones from Verifone, for example, they could be connected to the internet. So if we see here POS Verifone, these could be connected to the internet. Okay, just so that they are able to connect to bank and the credit card companies, the issuers, to make the transaction. So that's why it's kind of important that these devices connect to the internet. And C is basically for those merchants with similar payment processing applications which are connected to the internet, but that merchant should not be storing electronic data. They could be only involved in transmitting and processing of credit card data. All right. Now, P2PE. Okay, merchants using only a validated PCI listed point-to-point P2PE solution. No access to clear text account data and no electronic account data storage. So not applicable for e-commerce channels, not applicable for service providers. So service providers are straight out, of the equation here. E-commerce channels are out of the equation here. Let's, kind of dissect this a little bit. So no access to clear text account data and no electronic data storage. So the merchant should not be storing, data. They could be involved in processing and transmitting, like I mentioned. And merchants using only a validated PCI listed P2PE solution. So if we go here, if we go to the product listings here, so you see point-to-point encryption solutions. So if the merchant is using one of these point-to-point encryption solutions, then the SAQ type P2PE is applicable for those merchants. Okay, now SPoC. This is a new SAQ, as you can see here, which was introduced with the version 4.0, which is the latest version. And this is for merchants using a commercial off-the-shelf mobile device for example, a phone or a tablet with a secure card reader included on the PCI SSC's list of validated SPoC solutions. Again, no access to clear text account data and no electronic data storage. I'm not going to repeat it again because I just, explained it while explaining this one. But merchants using a commercial off-the-shelf mobile device with a secure card reader. Okay, so if you're using a mobile device to accept payments, for example, and then you're using one of the PCI SSC SPoC solutions, you see, then you're eligible for that. Okay, you can check all of the solutions, which are, so only 7 of them which are eligible for that. And not applicable to the unattended card present, mail order, telephone order, or e-commerce channels. So, again, so somebody has to be, present in order to accept the transaction. So that's it's not applicable for unattended card present or mail order, telephone order. So, just like some of those phone companies or telecommunication companies where we can make credit card payments to the phone, this is not applicable for those, or this is also not applicable for e-commerce channels. Then there's a D, which is kind of, an SAQ which is applicable for the business model of which does not fit into all of the above. So one is for merchants, the SAQ-D, all merchants not included in the descriptions of the above, and the one for service providers. So that's the only one for service providers. SAQ-D is probably, is the longest one, and is the most comprehensive one, and it contains all of the controls, basically all the 12 requirements. So it's pretty comprehensive and requires significant amount of efforts to comply with. You need to have all the controls in place. Previously, some of these other SAQ types were also applicable to service providers, but now it seems like with the new approach, with the new PCI DSS approach, service providers would be eligible to complete an SAQ-D only. And in my kind of experience, most of the service providers fit into this category anyways, so I think it only makes sense. So yeah, I mean, slightly longer video, but I wanted to cover all of these. And how to find out these SAQs, I think I had already covered in one of the other videos. But if you go to resources here, if you go to document library, so if you have to search for an SAQ type, so SAQ A, and you can either select from the drop down or just hit enter here, and then you can see here. This is how you search for these SAQ EP. I think I'll have to put the hyphen here. I'm not sure why is it not coming. Oh, sorry, AEP. Yeah, SAQ AEP. So this is how you select, and they have a lot of different languages, I think. So you have English, German, Portuguese, Spanish, etc., and you can download these from here. Do read this document carefully. I think this is a very nice document, and they have recently published it. I'm obviously going to go over all of the controls. So the next steps would be to basically run through the various SAQ types in detail, along with the controls that are listed in those SAQ types, so that I can help companies answer those questionnaires, right? Without even having to get in touch with a consultant, etc. Because remember, the very name SAQ is self-assessment questionnaire. I mean, the very full form of an SAQ is self-assessment questionnaire. So by definition, you do not need to get in touch with a qualified security assessor, which is needed for a level 1 merchant. But you are, of course, always free to do so. And engaging with a qualified security assessor, even for an SAQ type, provides a lot of credibility. But you are not mandated to do so. So my goal is to provide you with all of the details required in order for you to be able to fill in the SAQ yourself, and in order for you to be write policies and procedures, build controls, engage with different vendors, etc., etc. So that's going to be my goal. I hope you enjoyed this video, and feel free to ask questions on the channel. I think I'm also going to think about kind of providing a channel to reach out to me directly if there are any questions, but I'm still thinking about that. Till then, I'll try to answer questions through the comments section. For now, I'll conclude by saying thank you to all my viewers, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do subscribe to my channel, and also like this video and share it with others. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye.